Censoring the media is a controversial topic. Censors often remove content that they feel is inappropriate, and this ranges from nudity to violence to criminal activity. The reasons why are different from one country to the next. What's also interesting is how developers and creators find ways around censorship regulations. This can sometimes lead to hilarious results, depending on the audience. Keep watching as I count down 20 things that censorship has eliminated from modern media. Number 20. Time travel shows in China. Along with showing cleavage, portraying Western lifestyles in a favorable light and celebrity kids. Western time travel TV shows have come fire from Chinese regulators. They believe time travel shows present a frivolous attitude to history. Regulators also say time travel shows are disrespectful to Chinese heritage by promoting reincarnation and superstition through bizarre plots. This has resulted in popular shows like Doctor Who and Star Trek being completely banned. Movies like Back to the Future and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure have also been blacklisted in the last couple of years. Time travel shows have seen a resurgence that's a lot of TVs that Chinese are missing out on. Number 19. General Winter in Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed. A new patch for the game Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed was created for the addition of a new character. However, unsuspecting players also had an existing character in the game modified General Winter. The General's tank originally showed Soviet symbolism with a hammer and sickle, as well as 5-pointed red star. But Sega gamers expressed their unhappiness with the political context of this symbol. And so, it was changed to black and red stars while not of disruption to gameplay. It is unusual that this wasn't an issue before the release, only after. Number 18. Game of Thrones in China. Game of Thrones is heavily censored in China with scenes like the Red Wedding hacked to pieces. That's right, I went there. Viewers watching on China's CCTV network felt the show resembled more of a medieval documentary than a fantasy epic of pop cultural proportions. Some journalists believe it's not just an attempt to reduce the violence and sex scene by viewers, but a fear by the government that the show made too closely reflects some aspects of the nation's own history. For example, parallels have been drawn in the media between the Wall in Game of Thrones and China's own Great Wall. Crazy speculation maybe. I'll leave that one up to you to decide. Number 17. Facebook and Twitter in France. Unless Facebook and Twitter are specifically mentioned as part of a story, they can't be mentioned on French radio and TV. Why? While the government broadcasting authority believes doing so would distort the competition between these social media giants and their less recognized competitors. Giving preference to Facebook and Twitter on air promotes these commercial companies, which isn't fair practice. This is supported by a decree from 1992, which rules out promotion of any private business on programs. That's why you'll hear French broadcaster using the more generic and less catchy phrase. Find us on social media. Number 16. Sexuality in Bravely Default, Flying Fairy. Despite characters of the Nintendo game Bravely Default Flying Fairy being animations, censors targeted the modesty of the characters for the Western release. Characters in the Western release are more clothed than their skimpy counterparts than the original Japanese version. Additionally, although the characters' faces haven't changed, their ages have been increased. The youngest character, previously 15, is now 18 in the Western version. Number 15. The color of the Jynx Pokémon. Pokémon number 124, referred to as Jynx or the humid-shaped Pokémon, underwent an appearance transformation in 2016 with the re-release of the original games. There are many reasons it makes sense that Nintendo self-censored Jynx by making our skin purple instead of black. Many fans bemoan the change because they thought all things Pokémon should remain the same, but others claim that the Jynx character is culturally insensitive, from the color of the character's skin to her human shape, big pink lips, and hypnotic dancing. Nintendo deemed it necessary to implement the change. The similarities between changes that Pokémon's Jynx and Dragon Ball Z's Mr. Popo can't be denied. Number 14. The town Effin on Facebook. Now it may sound hilarious to you, but the proud residents of Irish town Effin have been rather disgruntled about not being able to list their hometown on their Facebook page. Apparently, it was too offensive for Facebook, but isn't Effin what you say when you don't want to be offensive? Back in 2011, when an Effin resident launched a campaign for Facebook's recognition of the town, Facebook agreed to look into the oversight, which they did because in 2012, They declared it to be an oversight of the mapping system. The social media giant quietly allowed Effin to be listed. Unfortunately, Bottom's town is still blocked out on Facebook and is only 6 miles from Effin. Perhaps this is also an issue with the mapping system. Not really. It's more likely because it has Bottom in its name. Anti-profanity filters have also left the town of Scunthorpe blacklisted, unable to promote posts or events, which include the name of the town. If you can't figure out why, take a closer look at the 4-letter word contained within the town's name. Number 13. Clothing and Hot Shots Golf 5. Hot Shots Golf 5 seems like a game that wouldn't need censoring, but it occurred because of how Japanese fans were playing the game. They were using the camera tilt option to look up the cartoon female player skirts instead of using it to play their best golf game. This resulted in the Western release, featuring female players with modest bicycle shorts under their skirts. Number 12. Nuclear Blast in Fallout 3. Bethesda censored its game Fallout 3 for the Japanese release. The historical sensitivity displayed by the developer in deleting the quest, which allows the detonation of a nuclear bomb, makes a lot of sense. Yet the game was still released in Japan, despite it being set in a nuclear wasteland with irradiated people and animals. Although the reasons for censorship are understandable, it's an unusual occurrence to need a game censored for a Japanese audience, when it is usually Japanese games being censored for a Western audience. Number 11. Language in GTA Online. You can rob an armored truck, kill gang members, and sell stolen cars. But you can't type developer eggplant or www with the Grand Theft Auto Online in-game text feature. What really is strange is that Rockstar has gone to the trouble of making Microsoft, Nintendo, PlayStation, and Sony, among others, forbidden text. The developer doesn't want to take any chances of players starting a console war. Rockstar will even let you type Rockstar. Ironically, many of the more inappropriate words, which we haven't mentioned here of course, are actually spoken by characters in the game. Number 10. EverQuest in Brazil. In 2007, a Brazilian court ruled for the ban of selling online fancy game, EverQuest. Despite it never being officially sold in Brazil, it seems that the choices set out for players, which include good and bad options, are at the heart of the ban. These choices begin in the character development stage, where you can choose to be of a good heroic racing classic or evil, killing whoever you want to. Apparently, the psychological burden of morality is harmful to the mental health of players because of the constant cycle of completing one goal to reach another and the intense cooperation between players. The game is considered extremely addictive. In fact, many players joke about EverQuest, calling it Evercrack. Number 9. Mark Ecko's Getting Up. Contents under pressure in Australia. Despite originally being granted the classification 15+ in Australia, Mark Ecko's Getting Up Contents Under Pressure ended up being banned just prior to its release. Australia is the only country to ban the game. Its reasoning is based on the belief that the game promotes the criminal activity of graffiti because it provides realistic scenarios where the protagonist learns graffiti techniques and gets rewarded for doing it. It's ironic really, Australia has banned a game set in the future, where freedom of expression is quashed by the government. Number 8. Sexuality and Bravely Second and Layer. If you haven't been surprised enough at the differences in censorship between countries, we've got some pretty blatant examples of this coming up. Many Japanese games from the likes of Nintendo are significantly altered for the sensibilities of Western audiences, like Bravely Second and Layer, which has altered character appearances to better appeal to American and European audiences. The female characters have had their costumes altered to cover more skin, skirts have been lengthened, and midrets covered. Additionally, the Tomahawk class was changed to a Hawkeye class featuring cowboys instead of Native American-looking costumes. Number 7. Energy drink branding and EA Sports MMA. You might be surprised to learn that the graphic violence of EA Sports MMA is not the reason it wasn't released in Denmark. In fact, it's because the fighting rings and fighter shorts feature energy drink branding. Scandinavian law prohibits the marketing of energy drinks. But here's the kicker. Electronic Arts could have changed the branding and still released it in Denmark, but they chose not to. Sorry Scandinavian MMA fans, there's some short standing in the way of your dream game. Number 6. Alien Narcotics in Saints Row 4. Saints Row 4 to be released in Australia, it had to resolve a couple of censorship issues. One of these issues was the game's inclusion of a loyalty mission, which features the character Shandy in this mission. You join Shandy in scoring and partaking in alien narcotics. Despite the drugs being purely fictional, Aussie censors took issue because they believe the mission promotes illicit drug use. Thus, the mission was entirely removed from the Australian release, deleting around 20 minutes of gameplay. Number 5. The South Park movie title. It seems like Matt Stone and Trey Parker are always finding hilarious ways to outsmart the censors. The original name of the South Park movie was reportedly South Park: All Hell Breaks Loose. Apparently, the Motion Picture Association of America took issue with the word hell, so Stone and Parker resubmitted with a new title. This was ironically more inappropriate as it contains a penis joke, and yet it was approved. Thus, we now know the movie as South Park: Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Number 4. The Red Cross in Prison Architect. Developers of game Prison Architect found themselves in hot water for using a symbol not in the public domain. The Red Cross symbol is subject to restricted use, with unauthorized use being an offense under the Geneva Conventions and British law. Because of the international understanding that the symbol stands for protection and neutrality during armed conflicts, using it for other purposes is considered to diminish its significance. This is why in Prison Architect, you see a green cross rather than a red one. Although you may have come across the Red Cross being used in some instances, Prison Architect has not been unfairly targeted. Other games have also changed their use of the symbol, like Halo, who changed it throughout their series of games to an edge. Number 3. Fruit art on Instagram. Stephanie Surley does a surprisingly great job of making fruit and her fingers into provocative art. Too good, according to Instagram, who has disabled her account 3 times so far. It's so simple and yet so effective, as Stephanie uses fruit like strawberries, limes, and blood oranges to create videos exploring the empowerment of female sexuality. It's a bit of a gray area here, because her art is obviously sexual, and yet it features no nudity or sound, just fruit. Number 2. Gore in Command & Conquer. Generals. Germany had some of the toughest video game censorship because of their stance on violence, but it often manifests in strange ways. Take the German release of Command & Conquer Generals, for example. This real-time strategy game features 3 factions of soldiers, led by generals from USA, China, and the Global Liberation Army. To avoid blood splatter and visceral dismemberment in battle, the German release has turned all the people into robots. These poorly executed superficial cover-ups are hilarious to see. Particularly the General GLA with his robotic face and turbine combination. One of this general's units is called Terrorist, and they are members of the suicide bomber infantry. I guess it would seem a little pointless to have a robotic suicide bomber, so they went right ahead and changed these characters to bombs on wheels. Obviously strange. This makes a lot more sense as a censorship decision. Number 1. Swastikas in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Given their history, it seems logical that Germany would censor the inclusion of Nazis in video games. What does seem strange, however, is that they pick and choose what they censor, leaving some obvious symbols of Nazism in view. While the movie Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade includes the swastikas to go without censorship, the game adaptation has seen them all removed. Despite this, an obvious representation of Hitler giving the Nazi salute remains in the game. It's quite hilarious to see how little effort the game developers went to remove the swastikas. Instead of replacing them with another symbol or removing them entirely, they have blacked them out in a very slapdash manner. Not doing a very good job of disguising them, are they? What instance of censorship do you find the strangest? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to CRAIN channel. We'll be making more videos like this in the future. Thanks for watching.